harm's way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Microphone's all. Little cushions are coming off the microphones. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for attending the Village of Woodbury Planning Board meeting of December 20th, 2017. To my right, I have Robert Anzalone. To my left, I have Sandra Caviglione. Far left, Gail, our secretary. At the consultants table, we have Dennis Lindsay, our engineer. We have Alec, who's our attorney. And we have Mike, who's our telecommunications specialist. And I'm Maria Hunter, your chairperson. Members, board members, have you had a chance to review the minutes from December 6th? If so, do I have a motion to accept?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And for those who are in the room, item number 2, the Pomona Enterprises has been requested to postpone that to January. So the first item on the agenda is mobility. Public hearing for the placement of small cell site attached to existing utility pole located at Turner Road and Corporate Drive in Central Valley. The utility pole is located adjacent to the property known in the Village of Woodbury tax maps as section 226, block 1, lot 88. Hello, Rich. Okay, state your name for the record and let's get going.
My name is Paul Costa. I'm the permitting manager for mobility, representing mobility for our small cell site on Turner Road. The site is on a 45-foot existing wooden utility pole with a street light. The antenna will extend the structure height to 48 feet 4 inches. And all the equipment will be contained in a brown cabinet that's 2 feet by 1 foot 9 inches and 9 inches deep. And then all the equipment being there, and below there will be an AC cutoff and a meter. The goal of the site is to cover kind of the surrounding area, which will extend into the Woodbury Commons. A way to look at this technology is that it's not necessarily a new tower, it's adding capacity to the area. So one way to think of it is that you have a supermarket, everyone's at 2 checkout lines, it's crowded. Someone comes over to open up a third line. Now you have more people that can get out quicker and faster, and that's what this is doing. It's offloading the users that are in that area to the existing tower so it can be offloaded quicker and faster, and increases the speed and capacity of the area. This is just one site right now in the village, and we're happy to hear the board's comments or address any concerns you have from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Just before we continue, I just want to make note, on December 8th, we received Orange County Department of Planning memo. On November 21st, from the Orange County DPW, we received H2M memos received in at 12:15. With all that being said, I'm going to defer to Michael. Your thoughts, concerns on this? You have a
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you. I think I ran through at the last meeting a little bit on our tech memo that was submitted. I want to just reiterate again, I think there was a lot of consistency between my memo and Dennis's. I went into a little bit more detail, but I think our conditions and conclusions were very similar. I do note, I know the applicant had just noted a brown shroud. This is a very small antenna on the top of a 45-foot pole. Nothing is going to appreciably change with that pole. There is a street light that stays. There would be a utility box about 6 feet off the ground. I do lead you to our report and the simulations that show more of a gray pole. I know we always think of telephone poles as brown and trees as brown. They're a little more gray, though, when you really stop and take a look at them. So I ask you to review our recommendations that we have in the tech memo. I really don't have any further comments. I do have some recommendations and considerations for this board on final colors, a little bit on signage, but it is a fairly straightforward application, in my opinion. It's one node. It's not a new cell tower to be constructed. This is a little bit of a different technology. I do feel there's a justification for this, and what's being proposed, I think, makes sense, and I think it's been reviewed quite thoroughly. It's good to hear that we got comments back from the county. I guess just a couple of other notes, and maybe this is for Alec to cover as well. I would, certainly be in favor of drafting a resolution at this point. I think it makes sense, especially there's been no public comment here tonight for that. So that's something that maybe could be considered for a future meeting. And also entertaining SECRA to the extent that you need to. I think tonight would be appropriate unless there's questions that perhaps I could answer or the applicant could answer.
Thank you. Well, that just segued into secret to Alec.
Okay. So this was typed as an unlisted action at the November 15th meeting, and the board declared its intent to be lead agency at that same meeting, and then circulated its notice of intent the day after. 30 days has passed, and we haven't received any responses, so the board can assume lead agency tonight. And our office has also distributed an EAF Part 2 for the board's review, so if you have any comments or questions on that, we can try to answer those as well.
Thank you. Dennis, H2M memo, anything you want to add?
No, very limited comments. We made some brief comments regarding the boxes on the poles, just to suggest that you might want to talk to the applicant about their experience. We don't have a lot of experience with this. I don't know that many people do other than the applicant. So whether they comply all with National Electric Code and whether there's any potential vandalism on the lower, whether they experienced anything like that, because it is down low, or at least one of the boxes is. And that's about it. There really wasn't very much. And you to take a look at the graphic that they provided, because I think it provides a pretty good view of what they're proposing.
Okay, thank you. Board members, since this is a public hearing, I'm just going to open it up to the public. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Just give me a moment. You can.
Yeah, let them
Anyone
line
in
up
the anyone in the room would like to come to the podium and speak on this public hearing, on this application?
one at a time.
Step to the. All right, I'm just going to ask you to step off to the
Yes,
side, okay?
Marie, can we just get a motion to open the
Oh,
public hearing,
You
please?
want to open up the hearing?
Oh, is that what?
Yep. Hold on a second, Neil. Don't speak yet. Notice is hereby given that the Village of Woodbury Planning Board will hold a public hearing at 7:30 PM on Wednesday, December 20th, 2017, at Woodbury Town Hall, 511 Route 32, Highland Mills, New York, in the matter of the application of Mobility LLC for proposed small cell site attached to existing wooden utility pole located at Turner Road and Corporate Drive in Central Valley. Said utility pole is adjacent to property on Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 226, Block 1, Lot 88. Now that we open up this public hearing to the public, Mr. Kraus, what would you like to?
Neil Kraus, Highland Mills, New York. And in all fairness to transparency, I'm also a trustee on the village board. I have a question. A lot of attention is being paid to the antenna, which really doesn't seem to be that obtrusive. But the box on the ground appears to be about the size of a compressor for a central air conditioner. Is that true?
What, there's a, which box do you see on the ground? Because there's a box that's 15 feet above,
Actually, it was the sign. The electricals, anything in the ground?
No, nothing's on the ground.
Just gonna be the pole itself.
Yeah, and then there's a cabinet about 9 feet up from the box. That's
I said 15, okay, 9 feet. Okay. So there isn't anything on the ground, just a pole?
I didn't have my glasses.
No problem,
I
that's
looked
okay.
over
I
and
had
it looked
mine
like-
on, so I couldn't.
All right, it's just that I would caution is that, I would prefer not to see, a lot of these showing up, and that should, and that for each pole, that there be a separate application in the future? And not just the planning board go ahead and just say one's been approved and they just go forward? Because I believe it was said this is the first, so I'm anticipating there may be more. Well, it's the only one right now, but I'm just concerned about there may be more in the future.
I thought, I don't know if it was Dennis or Mike.
Mike.
Was supposed to send a letter to the village board, and they were supposed to weigh in on this. There was no, because I didn't get a copy of it, so I'm not sure where this went to with the village board.
Yeah, Kelly and I are discussing that. I think she's gonna take the lead in coordinating that.
Okay.
But we're looking at the third week in January as a tentative date to meet on the code. And not only this, but there's other updates, some
Okay.
recent FCC mandates and things
All
like
right, so
that.
you're going to meet with Kelly and the mayor or the village board?
To be determined.
Okay.
Probably the mayor and maybe a person or persons from the village board. But
Okay.
that is in the works.
Okay.
Because your code doesn't address this, Neil.
No, I know,
All
right.
So that's why we did
Okay.
ask, and Kelly
Yep.
and Mike will be reaching out to the village board to take it further to address it.
Okay.
All right?
That's all my comments, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Maria, if I could, there's,
Yes,
we
Dennis.
did put in the memo that there is a box, 5.5 feet above grade. It's for a meter. It's the typical meter pan. It's 19 inches by 13 inches by 4.85. So it's 5 inches. It's not a really big thing, but that is mounted at a height where someone can reach it. So that's something you will see. And then there's another disconnect that's much
Right,
higher.
much higher.
It's up 9 feet,
How high is the first one, Dennis?
5.5 feet above grade.
So
And-
that's the one that, Mike, you said 6 feet?
Same thing,
Okay.
right.
And that's the
Yeah, that's-
meter, that's so Orange and Rockland
that's
could
so-
just go there and read it, so that's similar to all the other meters that will be on utility poles.
So that's there now, that's not there now.
No.
No,
And just for height and reference,
if you
want
So at 5.5 to 6 feet is going to be the meter for the Orange and Rockland, so that they can charge you for the electricity that you're going to be using.
yeah,
Okay. And then at about 9 feet is the other box.
yeah, that's the cutoff.
The cutoff.
Yeah,
Right.
and then above that, at 15 feet, is the top of the cabinet, or the bottom of the cabinet, sorry. That houses all the equipment. And haven't had any, people vandalizing these or trying to break into them. We put about 200 of them around New York City and haven't had any issues. So, I mean, they just look like normal utility equipment on a pole, so no one really thinks to get into them. And they're also locked with a key as well.
Okay. All right. Anyone else from the public who would like to come forward and speak on this application? Board members, what's your pleasure about this public hearing?
Close it.
Motion by Robert to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now. Before we go any further and before I forget, I will offer a motion to declare ourselves lead agency on this application.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. So that's out of the way. All right, so, board members. We've received a part 2 from our attorney's office. I know that was emailed to everyone, and I know there's a couple of little arrows off to the side. I think that's on page 6, I think is the first one. No, take that back. Page 4. Alec, would you like to explain the little arrows there that from Kelly?
Yes, so you'll notice that those were marked yes to the overall question, but those arrows were to indicate that there were no or small impact may occur, because we had to mark those answers that way because of the response on the EAF Part 1. So for the threatened and endangered species, that was marked yes by the applicant at the EAF Part 1, so that's just something that need to be acknowledged and addressed by the board as part of their secret review.
Okay,
And
And-
that's similar for the rest
I think it's page 6.
of those notes, yeah.
Okay. And then, I just want to, I know I saw another one, hold on. Page 6, there's one more. It's on page 9. Being that it's located within 1,500 feet of a school, hospital, licensed daycare center, group home, nursing home, or retirement community. All right, so board members,
What is that?
what? 1,500 feet is a school.
That's 1,500 feet?
Probably the edge of the property,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't seem, okay.
But actually,
like it
no,
would
I
be
take
farther
that
than
back,
that.
because you know why? The one building, there is, there used to be some kind of, the old Bracco building in the back there. They did some kind of, special needs service. I'm not sure if they're still in there or not. So I'm not sure if that's what,
I also think it's to the property and not necessarily to the structure.
right, so it's to the
So
and-
the school on, I don't know if it would stretch out, but 1,500 feet is a reasonable distance, if that's the number. And you might get over to, is that the middle school? That's
the elementary school,
the elementary school?
yeah.
Right opposite Woodbury Common.
That's like the edge, that's like, if you, it's like the way the crow flies, it's right to the, okay. I know the public just, would you like to, this is the public hearing for the mobility, for the utility pole on Turner and Corporate. Did you want to make any comment on that? If you do, I have to have you come to the podium, because the public hearing's still open.
Sorry, I'm just running late. I
That's
just
okay.
wanted to try to get an understanding.
Please take the,
what
yeah,
was
I gotta
actually-
have you up the pole, at the podium.
That's what I figured where it was gonna go.
Okay, I'll give you a moment to
Just out of curiosity.
state your name for the record, please.
All right, just for the curiosity, for the record, I'm just kind of curious. If I understood correctly, isn't there something similar to this down in the barn of the old, on Turner Road?
There is something different in the barn.
It's something different in that
Inside the
building?
barn, there is an antenna, but that's
Right.
different.
The objective of this, and the one in the barn is T-Mobile. It's located inside the cupola of that building. The purpose is similar. It's offloading during times of very high call traffic
Yeah. Okay.
to the network of conventional macro sites or cell towers. Behind the BMW dealership at Mar Lane,
Oh.
there's another one on
That's right,
Arden
I
House
did do
Road.
that, yeah.
Okay.
So it's offloading. You
I'm gonna
could
rescind
call the
my-
T-Mobile one in that barn also a small cell, but it's actually a little more of a conventional cell site that you might see on water tanks or rooftops. This is just a single antenna
Yeah.
you could see sprouting off the top of the wooden pole.
Okay, so it's a different
All
carrier?
right, can I just?
Yes.
Time out for everyone. For protocol here, Robert, would you like to rescind your motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I'll do that.
Sandy, would you like to second that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now the public, I wanted to be proper because we
Sorry,
did close
yep.
it, so
Yep.
I just wanted, it's Mr. Binder, right?
Yes, sir.
Is the microphone on?
Yes,
So we need to hear you. You can pick it up. For the record, it's Mr. Binder from Turner Road.
Turner Road, yeah. I
Dale?
happen to be one of the residents on the road. I was
Yeah.
concerned about, more or less, the microwave dishes. I know the one in the barn was kind of, it's hidden, it's out of the way. I know we have one up on the mountain behind me, and the one on the other side, and of course on the barn. So I was kind of curious as to how much it would be and why it had to be there, and, you know, whether or not the existing location of the barn could be used. And I figured it probably was another carrier, and they needed another spot, but I don't know. I'm just kind of curious in terms of, you know, the location and how much more that may expand or not. So I figured I'd come down and inquire about it just to see what it would entail or not. So it is a separate carrier. Is it
Yes.
different than AT&T or Verizon? It's T-Mobile.
It's Sprint in
Sprint.
this case, yes.
Yeah, and
Sprint's
it's,
case.
it's not on a cell tower, it's on a utility pole. As our, Michael was explaining, it's new technology, so they're evolving. So this is all new to us as well, but it's not on a cell tower. So that's why,
Yeah, but if I'm correct, it is a microwave dish to send and receive.
Yeah, it's not a
communications?
it's not a microwave dish. It's a canister antenna
Okay,
at frequencies that Sprint is allowed to operate on, I think 2100 megahertz. Low power, it's covering a very
That's-
focused area.
okay.
And it's not a microwave. Microwave, you think of a point-to-point beam. This is different. This is distributed 360 around that area. And
Okay.
again, it's to supplement times of very high call traffic around Woodbury Commons, the Thruway, and that area, where Sprint's network locally is overwhelmed at times. Their conventional cell tower sites, Mar Lane, Arden House Road, and others, this would supplement the network.
Okay, yeah, because like I say, to be honest with you, the technology I know in cell phones, I was more or less concerned too on the frequencies and the power, because it starts getting close to the residents, and I know there's a lot of traffic going back and forth, like we don't have enough microwaves going through us now.
Yeah.
So
No,
it was
we
just a
did look at
concern.
that in our tech memo. There is a radio frequency emissions compliance in there based on health-based limit, and this is well below that for all areas, ground level, all around that area.
Okay.
So that is something that the village looks at during these reviews.
Okay, well, pretty much, the only, of course, I'm gonna ask, is this capable of being expanded further in terms of once it's in, will it continue to escalate or grow? Or is this pole going to be pretty much, that's it, kind of deal? I'm thinking about futuristically, because usually once like something gets started, one of the towers goes up, all of a sudden there's one dish, then there's another, then there's another. Before you know it, it looks like a tree. I mean, literally filled with a lot of stuff. And I kind of like the idea down in Jersey where they take these things and they kind of like make them into trees. Summertime, it looks real nice. Wintertime, they kind of stand out. But, in that respect, I'm just curious as to whether that might turn into something more than just a single,
Yeah,
receiver.
the proposal here is just for this. And this is an existing wooden pole. It really can't accommodate anything else.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you have a light pole there, you have an antenna that's proposed. There wouldn't be any proliferation on this pole per se, and that's all this application is about. If there was a modification, it would have to come back and go through a village process, but I don't foresee that happening at this location.
No, and Orange and Rockland only allows one antenna on the site, so they won't.
I'm just out of curiosity too, the replacement of that pole was for this purpose? This pole recently was replaced. I was kind of surprised that it had been, but it seemingly was pulled out and a new one was put in its place. I didn't know whether or
I
not
don't know.
that was in preparation for that.
We have no idea why Orange and Rockland did that.
Okay, I thought maybe it
No.
had something to do with it because of where it's located at this point. I'm more or less starting to get concerned only because, like I say, based on that and the other thing that I'm looking at next to me on the corner lot and how much more it's going to continue to grow. So I
Understood.
wanted to come down and find out. And of course, being a resident, having these things close by, 20 years from now, I don't want to find out that we're all growing things that we shouldn't be growing inside of us because of all the frequencies going through us all. So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to get an idea. So
Sure.
it's low frequency, it's not something,
Low power
Low power.
Okay.
at
Alright.
licensed frequencies, yeah.
okay. Well,
Okay.
it doesn't look too bad, but,
I hear you. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Binder, for coming out.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'm just a little sensitive only because the area seems to be growing so doggone much. And, yeah, like I say, think different things that go on around you and, I see it. But anyway, I just would like to thank the board for the time and your time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
anytime.
You're welcome, thank you. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this? Since I reopened the hearing.
Good evening. Tim Egan, Highland Mills. After the last time the planning board discussed this issue, I had listened to all of the comments here at the planning board meeting, and I took a close look at our local village law with regard to telecommunications. And I was pleasantly surprised to see how comprehensive it was. It's a pretty comprehensive law. And it was clearly well thought out when we did the comprehensive plan, many years ago, not that many years ago. I see this application for a very specific purpose and a reasonable solution to a particular problem. I did not get the sense then, nor do I get the sense now, that this would be a prolific growth of cell tower nodes up and down Route 32 or anywhere else for that matter. Mostly because this particular technology, from my understanding of the telecommunications industry and my professional experience, is for a specific purpose. And for a cell provider or an infrastructure provider to start placing these nodes on every telephone pole in a targeted area, it would be far less costly for them to just put up a single traditional cellular antenna at a reasonable location. So I don't really see this as being a big issue. As far as the aesthetics of it, I'm sure there is concerns about the aesthetics. Personally, I don't think anyone will even notice it there once it's up for a couple of days. I would be happy to review the local law with consultants, with our engineers, with our council. I have no issue with that, and I'd be happy to look at it and take comment on that. But as it stands right now, I just don't see a need to change, because everything like this that's gonna come before the village is gonna come before the planning board first, as it stands right now. So each and every node that would be discussed for installation would be discussed at the planning board level, and these types of comments and public hearings would be had every single time. That's why I say it would be more efficient for them to just put up a single tower if that's what actually their intent was. So those are just my thoughts over the past couple of weeks as I thought back to the first discussion on this and reviewed the law. Thanks.
Thank you. And just for your, Mike has been working with Kelly, and they're trying to put together some kind of a meeting to go over the law with the village sometime in January, so.
Okay.
I know you have Mike's information,
The
Mike
mayor?
Musso, Mike
Oh,
Musso.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Our
Yeah, I'll-
telecommunica- maybe you can reach out to him.
I
and
actually
go-
did, and I'll reach out to him again and.
Yeah, 'cause
and-
That's
yeah,
him right
we'll-
there.
We'll connect and.
Yeah, connect.
Look forward to it, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause I'd
connect
like to
again, because he's,
participate in that
Kelly,
process.
Kelly and him have been working on reviewing it and to present it to the village board, so
Okay, great,
you can touch base with him, but thank you.
thank you.
Sorry, just like Dole said, I'm tentatively on the village board session January 11th to discuss the project as well, so.
Oh, there,
Yeah,
okay,
there,
yes.
so.
All right, Robert, would you like to make a motion to close the hearing?
I'd like to make that motion to close the hearing.
Sandy, would you like to second again?
Sure.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4 yes. Okay. I want to thank everyone for their comments that did speak. Where was I? We did lead agency. I was going to ask about part 2. We went over that. We're good with that. Alec, did you have any further discussion on the EAF?
No, not unless you have any more questions.
No? Did I need to do anything else with it? We have to accept it?
No, just authorize us to draft a EAF Part 3.
Right. I'll offer a motion that our attorneys draft Part 3 on our behalf.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, so that's good. Any other board members' thoughts or concerns of this application?
Just like to ask Mike, do you foresee other providers having a similar need to Sprint?
You know, it's I guess working on these the last few years, it's really kind of a mix and match. Mobility is not a carrier, but they're an infrastructure company. Crown Castle, who builds conventional cell towers, is also in this market. Small cells or distributed antenna systems. It's becoming another tool in the carriers' toolboxes, Verizon, Sprint, whoever. So I'm seeing a mix and match, and sometimes it depends on capacity needs, vis-à-vis Woodbury Commons or the Thruway. Sometimes it depends on topography, or whether or not that one conventional tower could get coverage along a corridor. So it really depends on site-specific situations and also the carrier's situations. What I will say, that the trend, there is an uptick in suburban or rural areas. We used to see this technology in airports, stadiums, shopping malls. They were kind of hidden. They are relatively small antennas. The Lincoln and Holland Tunnel had this type of technology for a long time. You know, cell tower can't see through. And of course, in dense urban areas like in Manhattan, you're hard-pressed not to see one of these at really any intersection in the middle of Manhattan. They're disguised in light poles or other utility poles. And that's because the capacity is at such a high demand there. So really, it's going to be based on call use. It's going to be based on the bandwidth that's needed. We hear something about 5th generation or 5G. And perhaps you know, the need for these will increase. There is an uptick, yes, and we'll just have to monitor what that technology is going to be in the next 5 years to a decade.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Sandy? Rich? Any other consultants?
Yes, one housekeeping matter, if it's not here. We may had some minor comments on the EAF. It was very small, but the most important one is the applicant should sign and date the EAF. I don't know if they submitted another copy, but if they haven't.
Yeah, when we gave it to Kelly,
Okay,
I believe we made all the changes that were in that.
okay, just
so
wanted to
we
make sure of that,
signed
because I
it.
don't have that. Okay.
I think we added, there was some additional.
There were
zone-
some very straightforward little
Yeah.
comments, but the most important one was to have it signed.
Yeah, we
Okay.
signed that.
Okay.
Alec, can you make sure that the building department gets a copy of what was sent to Kelly?
Yep.
That was signed?
Yep. And also, can you authorize us to draft a resolution?
Yep, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No, you're good. No one else has any other comments, right? Board members, consultants, we're good? All right, do I have a motion to authorize the attorney to draft a resolution of approval?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? Rich, that was you? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else? We're good? Good night.
Good night, thank you.
Also, going into 2018, Dennis or board members, I'd like to cancel our January 3rd meeting and go with the January 17th meeting for start off our year. Do I have any problems with that? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second? Any thoughts, concerns, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So there will be no January 3rd meeting. We will start with January 17th. Okay?
Got it.
Yeah, we have making sure I have a full quorum here from the holiday. All right. Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good night. Happy Hanukkah to all those who are celebrating tonight's the last night. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and everyone else who's, whatever they're celebrating. Have a good year.